There is a funny story there because my name's actually John, but let's just say for tax reasons, today I'm called Jonathan Baxendale. Let's just leave it at that. So, yeah, so I'm John Baxendale. I'm a partner solution architect, and I've actually got most of my team in the room today as well. We've got Simon Coles over there. Stick your hand up, Simon, because you'll be calling you out later. And next to him, we've got Eleanor, who is my manager. So, I'm going to have to do a really good job today, otherwise this is going to go badly for me. So, today I'm going to do a couple of kind of the Adobe corporate slides, but then I'm going to move into just a little bit more of a personal talk about some stuff we did last week, and I'm going to use that to talk about some of our partners' reactions to some of the new products that we've released. Sean's done a great job this morning of introducing on the business track the new products, so Adobe Commerce as a cloud service and Adobe Commerce Optimizer. And I'm going to just really talk about the partners' reactions to those from the session that we did last week. So I'm sure there'll be lots of questions because it's a short session. I'm going to have to kind of fly through things, and I won't have a huge amount of time to go into technical detail and do these things justice. So hopefully it will create a lot of questions. You can follow me on LinkedIn. That's the QR code. I don't publish too much on there. I try to keep it focused on things that are going to be interesting to our partners and are going to be interesting about Adobe Commerce. So yeah, as I said, we're part of a team of partner solution consultants. Our role is to support partners in whatever you do with Adobe Commerce, in selling it, helping to position it, helping to understand it technically. One of the important things that me and Simon do is we focus on commerce, and we try to really connect you guys up to the right people within Adobe. Obviously, organization the size of Adobe, we're pretty big. It can be difficult to navigate. We're really your secret weapon to be able to sort of navigate that and get the right information. So come and say hello to us. Follow us on LinkedIn. Drop us an email. We love to work with you and support you. So this is the 4 corporate slides. So this is the bit that is fairly standard slides that you'll have probably seen in Sean's sessions a bit earlier. But I'm going to talk a little bit more about the technical detail on them, because we've launched 2 new products, which I think are super exciting for a lot of reasons. The first one is Adobe Commerce as a cloud service. So this is, I think, a bit of a step forward for us. What we've done is basically taken Adobe Commerce Cloud as it was, so that kind of past products that we had. But the bits of it that were still a little bit difficult to scale, the things that still kind of kept partners up at night sometimes, trying to manage version upgrades, trying to keep the performance there, we've taken those and moved them into fully cloud native services. So there's been some change in the architecture. The Magento core is still at the fundamental base of it. Like, it's still, this commerce foundation is still Magento, which is important because it means that it sort of feels familiar even though it is fully SaaS. There's a load of things that we've added on top and with that to make it easy to work with. So one of the things about making it fully SaaS is that obviously you don't have access to the PHP. You can't implement modules into the core. That gives you a lot of benefits. It makes it easier to work with. It means you can spin up an instance within a couple of minutes by just clicking a button, something that you obviously couldn't do in the past. But it does mean that you have to build on top of that foundation in a different way. And you do that with App Builder, which is a set of tools which help you to work with that foundation. So I'll talk about those in a bit more detail in a second because they're really critical. The other bits that we've added, merchandising service. So this is really, we've had live search, we've had a catalog service for a while that were about moving some capability out of the core into a separate SaaS service to make it easier to scale. We've kind of taken that to the next level. So previously what we'd done is to move it into a separate service and scale it a bit. Now we've re-architected it. We've removed a lot of the kind of bottlenecks that were there. So 250 million SKUs, 30,000 prices, all that kind of stuff. Like the stats are fantastic. And the other thing is product visuals, which is also part of Adobe Commerce Optimizer. But this is where we previously used to store product images kind of in the file system in the back end of Commerce or Magento. We've now extracted that and moved it into Adobe Assets, which is obviously another of our Adobe products. That means that you have a little bit more capability about how you deliver those images. You get some kind of performance benefits in terms of the hosting. But what it also does is opens up some interesting workflows around using Firefly, using the generative AI to make that sort of workflow much more powerful. So that's really, really powerful for customers, for merchandisers. Adobe Commerce Optimizer is kind of a little bit simpler, kind of a little bit similar. From a technical architecture, most of those components are the same. So with Commerce Optimizer, there's a little bit more focus on the front end experience. So the Commerce Storefront powered by Edge Delivery Services is essentially our kind of new front end for Adobe Commerce. And it comes from our content management team, Adobe Experience Manager. They built a very fast way of publishing content that gets incredible page performance. We said, that looks pretty cool. Let's adopt that for commerce. That's what we've done. So that's for Commerce Optimizer. That is a really key part of that as well. Product visuals is still in there because you use that to actually host the image assets. Merchandising services, again, like the catalog service, is a really core part of it. Being able to do live search, being able to use the product recommendations to be able to build a really nice experience. The bit that's different with that is that you can still use your third-party backend. So basically the experience layer, you could say it's just the front end, but it's a little bit more than that because there's a few services that are baked into that product that help you to drive the experience. And then you can layer it on top of other commerce products. That's commerce with a small c. So, perhaps you've got a merchant that's got heavy investment in their back end. The whole checkout flow can be quite difficult. You need your payment service providers integrated into it. You need your fraud check-in, all of those things that happen in that kind of checkout flow. But you might have got a merchant that is a little bit limited on that front end experience and they want to improve it. So this is really where Commerce Optimizer comes in. So, okay, that's the corporate. Oh, no, it's not. I've got one more. App Builder. This is the other critical piece to it. Because both of these products are effectively SaaS, you need to work with it in a different way. And that's basically what App Builder is. App Builder is a suite of tools that Adobe has had for, I think it was about 4 or 5 years ago, we started to originally talk about this. In the last couple of years, it's become a lot more important. And with the launch of Adobe Commerce Cloud Service and Adobe Commerce Optimizer, App Builder becomes really critical because it is the only way to build on top of those two products. You can optionally use it for the Adobe Commerce Cloud Pass, but obviously for the SaaS, this becomes really important. So right now, oh no, there's one more. Just an architecture diagram because I can't do a presentation without doing an architecture diagram. So basically, this is kind of what it looks like. This bit is Edge Delivery Services. This is the front end, the experience layer where you work with JavaScript, CSS, HTML to build the front end experience. Underneath it, bunch of GraphQL APIs. We've got different ways of basically creating the content, so the Experience Manager piece. Underneath that, you've got App Builder and API Mesh. These are really the glue that pull together all of those SaaS services into a coherent kind of layer. And then right underneath that, you've got the Adobe Commerce Foundation, which is an orange box because it's Magento, fundamentally, with some architectural changes depending on the exact flavor that you're using. So it's a little bit of an eye chart. I'm sure most people can't see that. Finally, at the end of the corporate stuff. Right, this is the bit that we basically, last week, we did two-day sessions. We had 120-ish individuals over the course of the 4 days. We had about 60 partners, so it was about 2 people per partner. And we basically did some sessions with our engineering team where we really sort of jumped into all of these concepts on a much more technical level, presented what we've been working on to a more developer and technical audience. We took a lot of pictures. It was really good fun. It was quite energizing to sort of work with partners and see their reaction to what we've been building. And I thought it would be nice to take some of those learnings, things that partners said to us during those sessions, and also drop in some pictures of the guys from the engineering team that delivered it. Because I think one of the things that we've done as Adobe is we haven't as much engaged with the community, with our developers and with our technical people. And I think that a lot of people don't really know what we've been working on and why. And I just kind of wanted to bring the kind of the developer focus out a little bit more and sort of introduce you to these people. So this guy's Nacho. Nacho's a legend. Known Nacho about 15 years. I think every development team needs the steady hand who's been around forever, seen everything. He's like the guy that you go to if you've got a question that no one else can answer. That's basically Nacho. Lovely guy. Nacho presented a session on the drop-ins. The drop-ins are essentially the bits of functionality that are common to most commerce sites, rebuilt in HTML, CSS, driven by the GraphQL APIs from Adobe Commerce. And they use the Edge Delivery Services framework as a way of delivering them to the browser. So basically, you have drop-ins for the PDP, the PLP, there's drop-ins for the checkout flow, for logging in and that kind of thing. They're the building blocks that you use to build an experience layer. We did a session on those. Lots of interesting feedback. I think the key one that I found interesting was that we started to see partners who have more of a content management focus adopting the drop-ins and feeling quite comfortable with it, which I think is interesting because it kind of changes the way that potentially your teams are able to work across the different products. Second thing was really on App Builder. Like, App Builder is definitely a very different approach to building commerce sites. The big difference, I think, is that with traditional Magento or traditional Adobe Commerce, you've got a database, you poll the database, you wait for something to get into a certain state perhaps, and then you do something. With App Builder, it's a real different mindset. You're working off an eventing framework. So it's the Magento eventing framework, but in Adobe Commerce. Event happens, you capture that event, you do something with it, and then you push some update back into Adobe Commerce. So different way of working. Could be challenging for a developer, could be exciting, but certainly it's a different mindset. So could be something that is interesting. Adobe Exchange. This guy is Ankel. Ankel, again, known him for about 15 years, super solid guy. We've been working on App Builder and trying to get to that level where we were with the Magento marketplace. Obviously, hundreds and hundreds of extensions. I think there was 2,600 at one point in the extension marketplace. For App Builder, it's a lot smaller. We've only got less than 100 in there at the moment. We are working to get the 100 most used extensions in Adobe Commerce and make an equivalent available in App Builder. So these guys have built a extension starter kit, which is just really a framework in JavaScript that helps you to build those extensions out. Pretty cool. We've also opportunities. We've been working with partners directly in the office in Barcelona and building out these extensions. So we had Tech Division, Comrap, and Vimo in the office just before Christmas. They sent 3 of their developers. We put 3 of our guys in the room, and they spent 3 days building out extensions into some of the common platforms. So if that's something that sounds like it could be interesting, reach out to us because we want to build out more of these extensions. And you get to work with guys like Angel, who's been around this kind of platform for a long time. Really good opportunity. Certifications. This is another thing that's going to change. It was one thing that partners raised about, like, what happens to my guys and their certifications? Like, are they still relevant? It's a completely different way of working. And I think they are. I think, like, what came out of the sessions is that although it's a very different way of working in terms of language and in terms of approach and technology, you still need knowledge of Magento. Like, you still need knowledge of what does this event mean? And if you've got that background, you will understand, where that event is triggered, which is the event that you should be using for a given integration. So certifications, we will update and we will make them more relevant for this kind of newer way of working. But there's still a lot of relevance in those certifications, and your development teams still need that knowledge in how things work, how commerce works. So yeah, still super relevant. This one is a really big one, I think. This was one that was interesting and caught me off guard. Hopefully Sean's not in the room so I can get away with saying this, but I was a bit kind of skeptical about Adobe Commerce Optimizer. It's like a front end that's not like completely connected to the back end. I'm not sure about this. It feels weird. But actually, this is really been exciting for a lot of partners, even partners who are like super dedicated to working with open source can see the benefit of the performance this gives. So essentially what this is a catalog service, but we've just scaled it up a huge amount. Instead of the old model where we had a database table, we duplicated the database table each time you had like a variation on the catalog. We've now got a base catalog and you apply policies over the top of it. And the policies are kind of based on product attributes, which mean essentially we can scale that catalog hugely. Things like price updates become a lot easier. You can pass the price update back into the kind of checkout flow during checkout. So this is a really cool thing. Like if you don't look at anything else after this talk, go and have a look at the catalog service documentation because I think you'll see opportunity with it. And I should introduce these two. This is Simon and this is Sandra. Again, I've known Sandra about 15 years. Solid person in the product team. Really good at engaging with people and kind of understanding how people work with the services. Doing a fantastic job with this product. I think it's smashing it out of the park, those guys. Opportunity. So Regis is someone who you might not have seen around in the UK too much, but Regis basically leads commerce for EMEA from a go-to-market perspective. He's got a bit of a Magento background. Years ago, he worked for a Magento partner, so he's got a really deep understanding of the ecosystem. If Regis was here today, one of the things that he would be telling us about these two new products is that think of this as like a modernization. Like think of, we've got a lot of customers, especially in the space that Adobe plays in, where, they've really been sold the idea of composable. They've been sold the idea of being fully SaaS and cloud-based. You've got those buyers who they're only going to buy something that is fully SaaS and cloud-based. I think that Adobe Commerce Optimizer and Adobe Commerce Cloud Service is an opportunity that for you as a partner, if you have that kind of mindset within an organization and you still want to be able to sell them, your services, these products might open that space up to you. They're familiar enough to a Magento developer that it will feel reasonably familiar. It's a new set of technologies that hopefully should be a challenge and interesting to start to work with. It kind of, on a personal level, I think it takes away some of the pain of dealing with the PHP technologies, dealing with the scaling, dealing with the way that the existing cloud pass works, makes that a bit easier. So your relationship with your customer hopefully can also be better, because you're going to have less conversations about doing version upgrades and more conversations about building things that add value. And I think that flip in the way that you interact with your customer can be really powerful. So that, I think, is exciting. And the way that these products work as well, they're a good way of bringing together different. If you've got a retailer where they've got, maybe 3 or 4 different platforms across different territories, ACO is like a great way of pulling them all together, having a common experience layer. So there's a lot of opportunity there. I think it's a very, very cool set of products. I didn't have a point for this slide. I just really like the picture. So I thought I'd use it. So again, that's Simon. Big smile. He looked quite nervous on the day. That was the one time he was chilling out at the back of the room and had a big smile. This is Edwin, another of the guys who supported us on the day. Lovely pair of guys. One of the comments that partners made to us at the end of the session was, it was like really nice just to kind of interact with people and find out that Adobe's really approachable. You can ask us questions. We're just normal people. Like we are approachable. Ask us questions. It's all good. So yeah, it's just a nice picture, I think. So additional resources. This will all be in the deck afterwards, so you'll be able to find it. And if you look for Adobe Commerce Storefront or App Builder or any of those things, you will find all of these links. API Playground, really good new kind of documentation where you can actually play with the APIs, play with the drop-ins. You can spin up a site and actually start working with it without having to interact with Adobe. So very, very accessible. Have a look at that. The other thing is this community Slack. We've had this community Slack for a long time, but it kind of died off. I don't think anyone was using it a few years ago. It's kind of been reinvigorated. We've got an app builder channel on there. We've got a lot of product people and engineering people who are really actively engaged in that channel now. So if you've not been on there for a while, come back and have a look at it. Lastly, ask us anything. Any questions will be we've got an Adobe booth upstairs. Come and ask us questions. Scan the QR code, drop us a message. We're basically here to help you. We're a partner support team. We care about the technology and helping you to make use of it and win deals and be successful. That's what sort of drives us. So thank you.